Captain Jake Morrison stood on the bridge of the UES Columbia, watching the sensor screens with growing concern. The patrol had been routine until 10 minutes ago, when his communications officer detected something impossible near Jupiter 3, massive. Ships hung in space like metal mountains, each vessel stretched over 2 kilometers long, with smooth silver holes that reflected the distant sun. Their design looked nothing like human technology, no visible weapons or engines, yet they moved with perfect precision through the asteroid field. Lieutenant Sarah Davis turned from her console with wide eyes. "Captain, we are receiving a transmission from the lead vessel. It is not using any communication protocol we recognize, but somehow our computers can translate it." Morrison nodded grimly, put it through the main screen, flickered, and showed a tall alien figure with pale blue skin and 4 arms. Its head was elongated with large black eyes that seemed to study everything. The being wore what appeared to be ceremonial robes, covered in glowing symbols. "I am Fleet Commander Vexta, of the Zeltharian Hegemony," the alien spoke with a voice that sounded like music mixed with thunder. "You primitive creatures have been observed. Your species shows basic intelligence, but your technology remains crude. We offer you one chance: submit to our authority and become a client species under our protection. Refuse and face total destruction." Morrison stepped forward. "This is Captain Jake Morrison of the United Earth Space Command. State your intentions in our territory." The alien tilted its head in what might have been amusement territory. "You claim ownership of this small system when you have barely reached your nearest planets. Your vessels use primitive kinetic weapons and chemical propulsion. We have conquered 47 species across the galaxy. All submitted when they understood our superiority." Commander Ryan Clark at the tactical station whispered urgently, "Captain, their energy signatures are off the charts. Our weapons might not even scratch their holes." Morrison kept his expression calm. "Fleet Commander Vex, the humanity does not submit to threats. We defend what is ours. If you wish peaceful contact, we can arrange proper diplomatic channels." Vexa made a sound that could have been laughter. "Peaceful contact. Your species will learn submission or extinction. We grant you 72 hours to contact your leadership, surrender unconditionally, or watch your worlds burn." The transmission ended, leaving the bridge in tense silence. Morrison looked at his crew of 20 humans who had trained together for 5 years. They were good people, skilled officers, but none of them had ever imagined facing something like this. Sarah broke the silence. "Captain, should we contact Earth Command?" Morrison nodded, but his mind was already working through tactical possibilities. "Send everything we recorded, priority alpha encryption. Tell them we need reinforcements at Jupiter Station immediately." Next few hours passed like a nightmare. The 3 alien ships remained stationary, but more vessels began arriving. Long, sleek destroyers and massive carrier ships. Until 30 alien vessels filled the space around Jupiter. Morrison counted gun ports and energy projectors that could probably vaporize his entire patrol fleet. To more human ships arrived: the destroyer USS Phoenix, under Captain Amy Stevens, and the cruiser U.S. Manhattan, commanded by Captain Ben Martinez. Both captains had fought in the Martian border wars alongside Morrison. They were experienced combat veterans, but even they stared in shock at the alien fleet. "Shake. We are seriously outgunned here," Stevens transmitted privately. "These things could probably take on our entire space fleet." Morrison studied the tactical display. The alien ships moved in perfect formation, maintaining precise distances. Their coordination suggested advanced computer systems or possibly some form of telepathic communication. Either way, it meant they operated as a single unified force. The test came 18 hours later. A civilian transport ship, the Luna Express, entered the system carrying supplies to the mining colonies. Captain Rick Thompson had no idea about the alien presence until it was too late. The lead Zeltharian destroyer moved with impossible speed. Beams of pure energy lanced out, striking the transport. The human ship simply vanished in a flash of light. No explosion, no debris, just empty space where a vessel carrying 300 people had existed. Moments before Morrison felt his blood turn cold. They killed civilians without warning. Stephen's voice crackled over the comm. That was not a weapon, that was complete matter dissolution. Their technology is centuries ahead of ours. Before Morrison could respond to more alien ships broke formation, they moved toward the human patrol fleet with predatory grace. Energy readings spiked across all human sensors. Captain Martinez transmitted on emergency frequency. All ships scatter, pattern, Delta execute, evasive maneuvers. The Manhattan fired first, launching a spread of nuclear missiles toward the nearest alien ship. The weapons detonated against some kind of invisible barrier, creating brilliant flashes of light. That did absolutely nothing to the alien vessel return. Fire came instantly. Coherent energy beams swept across space, striking the Manhattan. The human cruiser lasted 3 seconds before it became an expanding cloud of superheated metal. Captain Martinez and his crew of 150 died without even understanding what killed them. Morrison watched in horror as his friend disappeared. The Phoenix tried to help, firing everything she had at the alien ship's captain. Stevens pushed her engines past, Redline trying to get close enough for her weapons to be effective. A second alien destroyer simply turned and looked at the approaching human ship. A single beam reached out almost casually. The Phoenix broke apart along its central axis, splitting into pieces that tumbled through space. Morrison could see escape pods launching, but the aliens destroyed those too. Sarah was crying at her station. "Captain, we have to run." Morrison wanted to fight. Every instinct screamed at him to avenge his friends, to make the aliens pay for murdering civilians. But he also knew his duty. His ship carried detailed sensor readings that Earth Command needed to see. The data might be humanity's only chance. "I'll stop." He ordered Sarah plot a course for Earth maximum. Burn. The Columbia turned away from Jupiter, running for home. Morrison expected the aliens to pursue them to finish what they started. Instead, the Zeltharian ships simply watched them go. Fleet Commander Vexta appeared on screen. "One final time run. Little Primitive, tell your leaders what you have seen today. You witnessed the power of the Zeltharian hegemony. Tomorrow, you will kneel before it. Your 72 hours begin now." The transmission ended. Morrison stood alone on his bridge as Earth grew larger on the screens behind them. Jupiter burned as the aliens destroyed every human installation in the system. Mining stations, research facilities, even automated weather satellites, nothing survived the methodical destruction. 24 hours later, Morrison sat in a conference room deep inside Earth Defense Command headquarters. Admiral Carlos Rodriguez listened to his report with a grim expression. General Patricia Wells reviewed the sensor data with growing alarm. President Martinez participated by secure video link. His face paled. A tactical analysis was devastating. The alien weapons operated on principles human science barely understood. Their defensive systems made them effectively invulnerable to everything in humanity's arsenal. Even their smallest ships outgunned the most powerful human dreadnoughts. "Mr. President, we have 48 hours to decide," General Wells said quietly. "Our entire fleet might delay them for a few days. At most." Morrison found himself thinking about Captain Stevens and Captain Martinez, good officers who died trying to protect civilians. They deserved better than this. "What about evacuation?" President Martinez asked. "Can we move our population to other systems?" Admiral Rodriguez shook his head. "Sir, the logistics are impossible. We have maybe 50 ships capable of interstellar travel with passenger capacity. The aliens have demonstrated they can track and destroy anything that moves." Morrison looked out the window at the lights of Washington, D.C. Below, millions of people going about their lives, unaware that in 48 hours, everything might end. The meeting continued, but Morrison barely heard the discussions about surrender terms and client species status. His mind kept returning to those 3 seconds when the Manhattan died. Captain Martinez had been trying to protect civilians, just like Morrison was trained to do. Somewhere in the back of his thoughts, an idea began forming. The aliens were powerful, but they were also predictable. They fought like beings who had never faced real resistance. Their formations were perfect, their movements precise but also rigid. Morrison began to wonder what would happen if someone refused to fight the way the aliens expected. Lieutenant Colonel Amy Parker sat in her office at Fort Bragg, staring at combat footage for the 100th time. The videos showed the destruction of human ships near Jupiter, but Parker saw something her colleagues missed. She noticed patterns in how the alien vessels moved and attacked the Zeltharian ships maintained perfect spacing at all times. Their energy beams fired in synchronized volleys. Their formations never changed. Even when human ships tried desperate maneuvers, it looked like they were following some kind of predetermined battle. Plant Parker had spent 15 years studying military tactics, from ancient warfare to modern space combat. She recognized the signs of an enemy that had grown comfortable with easy victories. The aliens fought like they expected their opponents to behave in predictable ways. Her assistant knocked on the door. "Colonel, there is a Captain Morrison here to see you. He says you requested his combat reports." Morrison entered, carrying a thick folder of documents. Parker had heard about his escape from Jupiter and wanted to hear his first-hand account. The captain looked tired, but his eyes remained sharp. "Captain, thank you for coming. I have been studying the engagement footage. Your ship got closer to the aliens than anyone else. What did you observe that might not show up on sensors?" Morrison sat down and opened his folder. "Colonel, those ships moved like they were dancing. Every maneuver seemed choreographed. They never adjusted their formation even when we changed course. It was like they had done this exact same battle 1,000 times before." Parker leaned forward. "What about their weapons targeting? Did they focus on specific ship types or systems? They went for the largest threats." "First," Morrison replied, "the Manhattan was our heaviest armed ship, so they killed it immediately. But they also destroyed escape pods and civilian transports. Things that posed no military threat at all. That matches historical patterns," Parker said. She pulled up files on her computer, showing ancient Earth battles. Every species the Zeltharians conquered followed the same pattern: overwhelming technological demonstration, followed by systematic destruction of military assets, then civilian targets, until surrender. Morrison studied the data. "How many species fought back according to their own broadcasts?" "None of them," Parker answered. "They all surrendered after the initial demonstration. 47 different civilizations just gave up." The door opened, and General Wells entered, followed by Colonel Ben Hayes and Commander Lisa Stone. Parker had requested this meeting to share her analysis with people who might understand what she was thinking. General Wells took a seat. "Colonel Parker, Admiral Rodriguez says you have insights about our situation." Parker activated the wall display showing tactical formations. "The aliens fight using what I call superiority doctrine. They assume their enemies will engage them directly, trying to match firepower. With firepower, every species they conquered tried to outgun them and failed." Commander Stone raised her hand. "Colonel, what if we did not try to match their firepower? What if we avoided direct engagement entirely?" "Entirely, exactly," Parker replied. She brought up new diagrams showing unconventional battle formations. Asymmetric warfare has worked throughout human history. Small forces defeating larger ones by refusing to fight on the enemy. Terms. Colonel Hayes looked skeptical. "You are talking about guerrilla tactics in space. The aliens have superior sensors and faster ships. How do we hide from them?" Parker smiled. "We do not hide. We become unpredictable. Look at their formation data again. They maintain exact distances between ships. They fire in coordinated patterns. They expect us to approach from specific angles. What happens if we do not do what they expect?" Morrison began to understand. "You think they cannot adapt to chaos? Their doctrine assumes technological superiority equals victory," Parker explained. "But they have never faced an enemy that deliberately chose inferior tactics. Every species they conquered tried to build better weapons, better ships. We need to think differently." Gennaro Wells stood up and walked to the display. "Colonel, this sounds like you want our pilots to commit suicide. Rushing alien ships with inferior weapons is not tactics, it is desperation." "With respect," General Parker replied, "I am not suggesting suicide charges. I am suggesting we stop trying to fight their kind of war and start fighting our kind." She changed the display to show Earth naval battles from World War II submarines. defeated surface fleets by attacking from unexpected angles. Small torpedo boats sank massive battleships by using speed and surprise. Instead of armor and guns, the room fell silent as everyone studied the historical examples. Parker could see them beginning to understand her point. Technological superiority meant nothing if you could not bring your weapons to bear on the enemy. Stone spoke first. How do we implement this? The alien fleet will be here in 30 hours. We start with what we have, Parker said. Every ship in Earth orbit gets retrofitted with new tactics mining vessels, cargo haulers, even passenger liners. They all become part of an integrated swarm. Colonel Hayes looked interested. Swarm tactics. I have seen those work against conventional forces. But these aliens have energy weapons that can destroy anything we have. Then we make sure they cannot target everything at once, Parker replied. One ship attacking alone dies instantly. 50 ships attacking from different angles, and the aliens have to choose their targets. That creates opportunities. Narration nodded slowly. It could work. Their weapons are powerful, but they seem to have limited firing rates if we overwhelmed their ability to target everything. Wells remained skeptical. Even if this works tactically, we still cannot win a long war. They have hundreds of ships. We have maybe 60. Combat-capable vessels. Parker brought up her final slide, showing modified orbital infrastructure. We do not fight a long war, General. We fight one battle and make it so confusing that they cannot understand what happened to them. The plan she outlined seemed impossible. Civilian ships would be armed with improvised weapons and given roles in complex attack patterns. Space stations would become weapons platforms. Mining equipment would be converted into kinetic projectiles. Everything in Earth orbit would become part of a coordinated assault. More importantly, every ship captain would be given freedom to improvise and adapt during battle. The aliens expected predictable responses, but human creativity was inherently Looked at the tactical displays, Colonel. This requires perfect coordination. How do we train 60 ship captains in 30 hours? We do not train them to follow orders, Parker replied. We train them to think for themselves. Every captain gets basic guidelines, then we turn them loose to solve problems their own way. Commander Stone was already taking notes. This could work. The aliens have never faced adaptive tactics. They fight like a computer program following predetermined responses. Wells walked back to the table. Colonel, I hope you are right, because if this fails, we lose everything. Parker closed her files. General, if we fight the way they expect, we lose anyway. At least this gives us a chance. The meeting broke up with everyone assigned specific tasks. Morrison would work with ship captains to explain the new concepts. Colonel Hayes would coordinate with Marine boarding teams. Commander Stone would handle communication protocols that allowed real-time tactical adaptation. They left. General Wells pulled Parker aside. Colonel, you realize you are asking me to bet human civilization on untested theories? Parker met her eyes. General, every theory is untested until someone tries it. The aliens think we are primitive because we use kinetic weapons and chemical rockets. But maybe being primitive means we still remember how to think like warriors instead of technicians. That night, Parker worked with her team to create what they called Doctrine Zero, a complete rejection of conventional space warfare in favor of adaptability and unpredictability. Every rule of engagement was thrown out. Every assumption about proper tactics was abandoned. Instead, they developed guidelines that emphasized creativity over firepower, speed over armor, confusion over coordination. They would fight like humans, instead of trying to fight like advanced aliens. 4 hours remained before the alien fleet arrived. Parker wondered if she had just saved humanity, or doomed it, but she knew one thing for certain. The Zoltharians were about to face something they had never encountered before, an enemy that refused to fight fair. The transformation of Earth orbit happened faster than anyone thought possible. Civilian ships from across the solar system converged on Earth, carrying volunteers who had heard about the alien ultimatum. Mining vessels, cargo haulers, and passenger liners all received hasty modifications to serve in the coming battle. Colonel Danny Martinez supervised the retrofit operations at Luna Station. Workers welded missile pods onto cargo ships, and installed improvised armor plating on civilian vessels. The modifications looked crude compared to proper military hardware, but that was exactly the point. These ships are not supposed to look threatening. Martinez explained to Captain Alex Thompson, who commanded a converted ore hauler, "We want the aliens to underestimate them right up until we attack DR." Helen Foster worked around the clock in the engineering bays, developing new weapon systems. Her team had created something unprecedented: swarm missiles that could be programmed to attack in coordinated waves. Each missile was small and cheap, but together they could overwhelm defensive systems. The key insight came from studying insect behavior. Foster told Parker during a brief meeting, "Ants cannot defeat a human individually, but 1,000 ants working together can bring down much larger creatures." Parker reviewed the tactical preparations with growing satisfaction. 60 human ships now filled Earth orbit, but they no longer looked like a traditional fleet. Some vessels hid behind space stations, others dispersed throughout the asteroid belt. A few even concealed themselves inside the rings of Saturn. Each ship captain received identical orders: engage the enemy using maximum creativity, do not follow standard formation, flying, do not attempt to match alien firepower, use speed, surprise, and unpredictability to create confusion. Commander Lisa Stone had solved the communication problem by creating a mesh network that connected every human vessel instead of centralized command. Each ship could share tactical data instantly, allowing the entire fleet to adapt as a single organism. Arisim found himself assigned to coordinate the first wave of attacks. His ship, the rebuilt Columbia, now carried experimental stealth systems and a crew of volunteers from across Earth. The modifications made her faster, but more fragile. She could not survive a direct hit from alien weapons. "Captain, the enemy fleet has been detected at the edge of the solar system," reported Lieutenant Sarah Davis, who had volunteered to stay with Morrison despite offers of safer assignments. 40 ships this time, Morrison observed, studying the sensor readings. They brought reinforcements. The alien fleet moved toward Earth with the same methodical precision they had shown at Jupiter: perfect formations, exact spacing, synchronized movement. It was beautiful in its own way, but also predictable. Parker joined Morrison on the Columbia Bridge to observe the battle firsthand. She wanted to see if her theories worked in actual combat. The next few hours would determine whether humanity survived or joined the list of extinct civilizations. Fleet Commander Vexta appeared on communication screens throughout the human fleet. His forearms gestured dismissively as he delivered what sounded like a prepared speech. "Primitive humans, your time has expired. We detected your pathetic preparations. 60 vessels against our battle group. You have armed civilian ships with crude weapons, thinking quantity can overcome quality. This delusion will cost you everything." Morrison smiled grimly. He keyed the general communication channel, addressing every human ship simultaneously. "All vessels, this is Captain Morrison. We trained for this moment. Remember your orders: be unpredictable, be creative, make them earn every meter of space." The first phase began exactly as Parker had planned. Human ships did not charge directly at the alien fleet. Instead, they scattered in seemingly random directions. Some vessels accelerated toward the outer planets, others dove toward the sun. A few simply stopped moving entirely. The Zeltharian formation maintained perfect order, expecting the humans to regroup for a coordinated attack. When that attack never came, they began advancing toward Earth in their standard battle formation. Then the chaos started. Captain Steve Rogers commanded a converted mining ship hiding behind Luna Station. As the alien fleet passed his position, he launched every missile his ship carried. The weapons were not aimed at the aliens. Instead, they targeted abandoned satellites and space debris. Explosions created clouds of metallic particles that scattered across the alien sensors. Suddenly, the perfect targeting systems that relied on clear sensor data began registering thousands of false contacts at the same time. Captain Maria Lopez led a squadron of fast courier ships in a high-speed approach from the direction of the sun. Solar radiation masked their engine signatures until they were almost on top of the alien rearguard. The human ships fired penetrator rounds designed for asteroid mining. The kinetic weapons could not penetrate alien shields, but they created massive electromagnetic pulses when they impacted. Lopez ordered her ships to fire continuously, creating a storm of electrical interference. Commander Ryan Clark positioned his vessel inside the rings of Saturn using ice chunks as camouflage. When the alien fleet focused on the other attacks, he began launching stealth drones. Each drone carried a single nuclear warhead and programming to seek out alien engine signatures. The drones moved slowly like pieces of space debris drifting on solar wind. By the time the aliens detected them, dozens of small nuclear explosions were detonating throughout their formation fleet. Commander Vexta found his perfect battle formation disrupted by attacks coming from every direction. His ships could destroy any human vessel they could target clearly, but targeting became impossible. When sensors showed hundreds of false contacts, the human tactics made no sense. From a traditional warfare perspective, individual ships attacked impossible odds without support. Weapons were wasted on non-military targets. Formations scattered instead of concentrating firepower, but somehow it worked. The alien fleet lost coordination as individual ships tried to respond to threats from multiple directions. Their synchronized firing patterns broke down when they could not identify priority targets. Watched the tactical display with satisfaction. The aliens were still winning individual engagements, but they had lost control of the overall battle. Now for Phase 2, he announced. Hidden throughout the asteroid belt, human ships had been waiting for this moment. Captain Katie Williams commanded a flotilla of converted cargo vessels. Each ship carried thousands of small kinetic projectiles designed to look like natural space debris. Williams ordered her ships to begin firing not at the alien vessels but at specific points in space. The projectiles would take 30 minutes to reach their targets, but by then the alien fleet would be in the perfect position. Meanwhile, Colonel Hayes led the most dangerous part of the operation. Converted passenger liners accelerated directly toward the alien formation. These ships looked like evacuation transports fleeing Earth, exactly what the aliens expected to see. Zeltharians ignored the civilian ships, focusing on military threats that seemed more dangerous. This was exactly what Hayes had hoped for. His ships carried no weapons, but they carried something more valuable: elite marine boarding teams equipped with experimental equipment. As the disguised transports passed through the alien formation, Hayes ordered his teams to launch hundreds of armored marines shot from hidden launch tubes, using personal maneuvering units to reach alien hulls. The boarding action created the ultimate confusion. Human soldiers began cutting through alien hull plating using mining equipment modified for combat. The aliens had defensive systems designed to stop energy weapons and missiles, but nothing prepared them for humans with cutting torches. Morrison coordinated the final phase. As Williams' projectiles reached their targets, the kinetic rounds had been precisely aimed to create debris fields at specific locations. Now, as alien ships maneuvered to avoid boarding parties, they flew directly into clouds of high-velocity metal fragments. Perfect alien formation dissolved into chaos. Individual ships found themselves isolated, surrounded by human vessels attacking from impossible angles. The technological superiority that had conquered 47 species meant nothing when they could not coordinate their response. Fleet Commander Vexta broadcast a desperate message to his scattered fleet: regroup at coordinates 77 Alpha, maintain formation discipline. Do not pursue individual targets. But it was too late. The human swarm tactics had created exactly the confusion Parker predicted. The aliens could destroy human ships, but they could not restore order to the battle. Morrison opened a channel to the alien commander. Fleet Commander Vexta, this is Captain Morrison. You wanted to see human tactics, now you have seen them. The response came filled with what sounded like electronic static. Impossible, your species uses primitive technology. How did you coordinate such complex maneuvers? We did not coordinate anything, Morrison replied. We gave our people freedom to think for themselves, something your perfect formations cannot handle. The battle continued. The aliens began withdrawing, Toward the outer system they had won individual fights, but lost the overall engagement. For the first time in centuries, the Zeltharian hegemony faced an enemy that refused to be intimidated by superior technology. Parker smiled as she watched the tactical display. Humanity had survived its first test, but this was only the beginning. The aliens would return with new tactics and more ships. The real war was just starting. 3 weeks after the first battle, Fleet Commander Vexta returned to Earth space with reinforcements. 120 alien ships filled the void between Mars and Jupiter, the largest Zeltharian fleet ever assembled for a single campaign, prepared to crush human resistance permanently. Admiral Vexta studied tactical displays showing the human defensive positions, 67 ships scattered throughout the inner solar system with no apparent coordination, individual vessels hid behind asteroids inside planetary rings, and even within the upper atmospheres of gas giants. The primitive humans had somehow survived the previous engagement through crude surprise tactics, but Vexta had learned from that encounter. His battle computers now filtered false sensor contacts. His ships maintained wider spacing to prevent boarding actions. Most importantly, he brought overwhelming numbers to ensure victory. What Vexta did not understand was how completely human warfare had evolved in just 3 weeks. Parker worked from a command center buried deep within Cheyenne Mountain, coordinating with ship captains across the solar system. Her tactical doctrine had spread beyond Earth. Admiral Karen Davis now commanded expanded fleets at Mars and Jupiter, while Captain Alex Reed protected the outer colonies. Every human ship captain had received updated training in adaptive warfare techniques, but more importantly, they had gained confidence. The first battle proved that alien technology could be overcome through superior thinking. Morrison led the Advanced Warning Network operating from Titan Station. His modified ships used Saturn rings for concealment, while monitoring the approaching alien fleet. Sarah Davis had volunteered for the most dangerous assignment, commanding a stealth reconnaissance vessel that shadowed Zeltharian movements. Captain, we are receiving data from the forward observers. Davis reported the aliens are using wider formations and stronger point defense systems they learned from our previous tactics. Morrison studied the tactical updates. Perfect. That means they are trying to counter our last strategy, instead of preparing for our next one. Human fleet had grown through desperate innovation. Civilian contractors worked around the clock, converting merchant ships into combat vessels. Dr. Foster engineering teams created new weapon systems daily. Most importantly, every engagement taught human commanders new ways to exploit alien predictability. Steve Rogers now commanded a squadron of 12 fast attack vessels. Each ship carried swarm missiles and electronic warfare equipment designed to create maximum confusion. His orders were simple: find alien weak points and exploit them mercilessly. Maria Lopez led what humans called ghost ships, vessels equipped with advanced stealth systems that could disappear from alien sensors entirely. Her squadron specialized in appearing where enemies least expected them. The battle began when Admiral Vexta ordered his fleet to advance toward Earth in 3 massive formations. Each group contained 40 ships with perfect spacing and coordinated movement patterns. The aliens expected to overwhelm human defenses through sheer numbers. Instead, they encountered something unprecedented. Rogers' squadron attacked first, but not the way aliens expected. Instead of targeting alien ships, his missiles struck abandoned space stations and derelict satellites throughout the inner system. Each explosion created electromagnetic pulses that disrupted Zeltharian sensors while alien ships tried to identify the source of the interference. Lopez ghost ships materialized inside their formations. Her vessels had been hiding motionless for hours, looking exactly like space debris. When they activated their engines simultaneously, the effect was devastating. Human ships appeared from every direction, launching attacks that made no tactical sense. Mining vessels fired, drilling lasers at alien hulls. Transport Ships released clouds of metallic chaff that confused targeting systems. Even medical evacuation craft carried improvised weapons. The aliens found themselves fighting an enemy that seemed to ignore basic military logic. Human ships attacked overwhelming odds without support. Captains made impossible maneuvers that should have resulted in immediate destruction. Yet somehow the chaotic human tactics worked. Admiral Vexta watched his perfect formations dissolve as individual ships tried to respond. To threats from multiple directions, his commanders requested permission to break formation and pursue scattered human vessels. Negative. Maintain formation. Discipline, Vexta ordered. Do not allow primitive tactics to disrupt our coordination, but maintaining formation became impossible when human boarding teams began appearing on alien hulls. Colonel Hayes had perfected the technique developed during the first battle. Modified transport ships launched Marines directly onto enemy vessels, using personal maneuvering units. Boarding actions created panic throughout the alien fleet. Zeltharian crews had never faced enemies inside their own ships. Human soldiers used mining equipment and construction tools as weapons, cutting through alien systems with improvised tactics. Meanwhile, Captain Katie Williams coordinated the largest swarm attack in human history. 200 converted civilian ships emerged from hiding places throughout the asteroid belt. Each vessel carried thousands of small kinetic projectiles designed to overwhelm point defense systems. The projectiles were not aimed at alien ships. Instead, they targeted specific coordinates in space where complex mathematical calculations predicted the alien fleet would be located. The timing required perfect coordination, but humans had learned to work together in ways the aliens could not comprehend. Admiral Vexta realized his fleet was losing coherence. Individual ship commanders made independent decisions, trying to respond to threats their training never anticipated. The perfect unity that had conquered 47 species began breaking down under pressure from an enemy that refused to follow established rules. Morrison observed the battle from multiple viewpoints, using a communication network that connected every human vessel. Captains shared tactical data instantly, allowing the entire fleet to adapt as conditions changed. Captain Ryan Clark reported success from his position near Jupiter. Admiral, we have confirmed alien shields cannot handle multiple simultaneous impacts from different angles. Their defensive systems prioritize the largest threats. That intelligence immediately spread to every human ship. Captains began coordinating attacks that struck alien vessels from multiple directions. Simultaneously, small weapons that could not penetrate shields individually became devastating when combined with proper timing. The breakthrough came when Commander Lisa Stone discovered alien formation weaknesses. Her analysis of captured sensor data revealed that Zeltharian ships maintained precise spacing to avoid interference between their energy weapons. Stone transmitted her findings to every human captain. If we can force them to choose between maintaining formation and defending themselves, their entire tactical system breaks down. Morrison immediately understood the implications. All ships' new priority target: disrupt alien formations, force them to break spacing. Human vessels began attacking the spaces between alien ships rather than the ships themselves. Swarm missiles detonated in carefully calculated positions. Nuclear mines were planted along alien movement corridors. Mining charges exploded at precise coordinates. The Zeltharian response was exactly what humans hoped for. Individual alien ships began breaking formation to avoid obstacles and pursue scattered human vessels. The moment their perfect spacing collapsed, their coordinated fire patterns became impossible. Vexta found himself commanding 120 individual ships instead of 3 coordinated battle groups. His tactical advantage disappeared as human vessels exploited the gaps between separated alien ships. The final phase of the battle demonstrated how completely human warfare had evolved. Captain Alex Thompson led a coordinated assault using 60 converted cargo vessels. Each ship carried a single, powerful weapon, but more importantly, they carried human creativity. Thompson ships Attacked in a pattern that looked completely random to alien observers, vessels approached from impossible angles, used gravity assists from planets and moons, and employed maneuvers that seemed to violate basic physics. What the aliens could not understand was that every seemingly random action was part of a larger plan. Human captains communicated through encrypted channels, sharing tactical data and coordinating complex maneuvers in real time. The battle ended when Admiral Vexta ordered a general retreat to the outer system. His fleet had lost 37 ships, while destroying only 12 human vessels. More importantly, the Zeltharian hegemony had lost something far more valuable for the first time in centuries. An alien commander faced an enemy that adapted faster than his forces could respond. The technological superiority that had conquered the galaxy meant nothing against opponents who treated every engagement as a learning experience. Parker watched the alien withdrawal from her command center deep inside Cheyenne Mountain. The victory was complete, but she knew this was only the beginning. The Zeltharians would return with new tactics and strategies, but humans would be ready. They had learned the most important lesson in warfare: evolution of thinking mattered more than evolution of weapons. 2 months after the second battle, the entire Zeltharian war machine arrived at Earth. 300 alien ships emerged from hyperspace in the largest military operation in galactic history. Fleet Commander Vexta had been replaced by Supreme Admiral Catherine, who brought the combined might of the hegemony to end human resistance permanently. The alien fleet included massive dreadnoughts, each larger than human space stations, carrier vessels that launched swarms of fighter craft support, ships equipped with planet-killing weapons. The technological superiority was overwhelming, but Supreme Admiral Catherine had studied human tactics and prepared countermeasures. What he had not prepared for was how far human warfare had evolved. Amy Parker now commanded unified Earth defenses from a mobile command ship that could relocate instantly. Her tactical doctrine had spread throughout human space. Every colony, every outpost, every civilian ship now understood asymmetric warfare principles. The human fleet had grown to 300 vessels through desperate mobilization. Merchant ships, mining platforms, research stations, and even luxury yachts carried weapons and volunteer crews. Earth Industries worked around the clock, producing swarm missiles, stealth drones, and electronic warfare systems. Captain Jake Morrison led the outer perimeter defense, operating from a heavily modified battleship. His crew included veterans from both previous engagements, officers who had learned to think like guerrilla fighters rather than traditional naval commanders. Admiral Karen Davis commanded the inner system defenses, using converted space stations as mobile fortresses. Her ships could disappear into planetary atmospheres or hide within asteroid fields before emerging to strike at enemy weak points. The final battle began with Supreme Admiral Catherine attempting to demonstrate overwhelming force. His dreadnoughts targeted major population centers on Earth, firing warning shots that vaporized empty areas. The message was clear: submit or face total extinction. Instead of surrendering, humanity responded with the most complex military operation in their history. Phase 1 involved every civilian in the solar system. Citizens on Mars launched improvised rockets filled with metallic chaff. Colonists on Jupiter moons activated mining charges that had been placed months earlier. Asteroid workers released clouds of industrial debris into space. The effect created a sensor environment that no military computer could analyze. Millions of objects moved through space, looking exactly like weapons or ships. Every piece of debris registered as a potential threat, forcing alien targeting systems to process impossible amounts of data. Phase 2 demonstrated human coordination on a scale the aliens had never imagined. Captain Steve Rogers led 200 small vessels in a synchronized attack that struck from every direction simultaneously. Each ship carried different weapons and used unique approaches, but together they created a devastating assault. Rogers himself piloted a converted racing yacht equipped with experimental teleportation technology. His ship could appear next to alien vessels, fire a single devastating shot then vanish. Before enemy weapons could respond, Commander Maria Lopez had perfected stealth warfare techniques. Her ghost ships could remain invisible until the moment of attack, appearing inside alien formations like deadly phantoms. Each vessel carried nuclear charges designed to detonate inside enemy shields. The alien response revealed their fundamental weakness. Supreme Admiral Catherine ordered his ships to maintain formation discipline, but human attacks made coordination impossible. Individual alien vessels found themselves isolated and surrounded by enemies that appeared from impossible directions. Colonel Ben Hayes led the most audacious operation in military history. His boarding teams had developed techniques for capturing alien ships from the inside. Marines equipped with cutting tools and explosives materialized on enemy bridges through teleportation technology. The captured alien vessels were immediately turned against their former allies. Human crews learned to operate Zeltharian weapons in real time, using the superior technology against its creators. The psychological impact on remaining alien ships was devastating. Helen Foster engineering breakthrough changed everything. Her team had reverse-engineered alien shield technology, creating human vessels that could survive direct hits from energy weapons. For the first time, humans possessed defensive systems equal to their enemies. But the real revolution was tactical. Captain Ryan Clark coordinated attacks that used alien predictability against them human ships, deliberately triggered automated alien responses, then exploited the gaps created by those responses. Every Zeltharian vessel followed programming that prioritized specific threat types. The aliens could not adapt when humans deliberately appeared to be less dangerous than they actually were. Mining ships that looked harmless carried planet-killing weapons. Transport vessels concealed elite strike teams. Supreme Admiral Catherine found his massive fleet being defeated by an enemy that refused to fight. According to established principles, human tactics made no sense, but somehow they worked. Individual alien ships were destroyed or captured while human losses remained minimal. Turning point came when Captain Alex Thompson led a direct assault on the alien command ship. His squadron included 50 converted civilian vessels, each carrying volunteer crews who understood they were unlikely to survive. Thompson's ships attacked in a pattern that looked like desperate suicide charges. The aliens prepared to destroy the approaching human vessels easily. But at the last moment, every human ship activated experimental teleportation systems. Instead of ramming alien hulls, the human vessels materialized inside the command ship. 50 armed vessels suddenly occupied the same space as the alien flagship. The explosion destroyed both the human squadron and the Supreme Command vessel. Supreme Admiral Catherine died instantly, along with his entire command staff. The carefully coordinated alien fleet dissolved into chaos as individual ship commanders tried to assume control. Without central coordination, the technological superiority meant nothing more than coordinated. The final phase as scattered alien ships attempted to withdraw. Human vessels pursued them relentlessly, using hit-and-run tactics that prevented any reorganization. Captain Katie Williams led hunting packs that tracked down individual enemy ships. Lisa Stone had developed communication intercept technology that allowed humans to monitor alien transmissions. The psychological impact was devastating. Zeltharian crews heard their commanders requesting surrender terms for the first time in galactic history. The war ended, not with human victory, but with alien capitulation. Admiral Vexter himself appeared on communication channels requesting a ceasefire. His voice carried defeat and confusion as he spoke words that had never been transmitted by forces. Primitive humans, we request immediate cessation of hostilities. Your tactics have proven superior to our technology. We surrender unconditionally and request terms for withdrawal from your territory. Parker accepted the surrender from her mobile command center, but she understood the larger implications. The Zeltharian hegemony had been broken not by superior weapons, but by superior thinking. News of human victory spread throughout the galaxy within days. Species that had submitted to Zel rule began developing their own asymmetric warfare techniques. The rigid military doctrine that had conquered 47 civilizations suddenly became a liability. Morrison found himself promoted to admiral and assigned to establish diplomatic relations with former enemy species. The aliens who had called humans primitive now requested permission to study human tactical innovations. The real change came 6 months later when Parker established the Interspecies Tactical Academy on Earth. Former enemies sent their best officers to learn human warfare principles. The galaxy discovered that technological advancement meant nothing without intellectual flexibility. Captain Sarah Davis, who had served with Morrison since the first encounter, became an instructor, teaching alien officers how to think creatively under pressure. Her classes included former Zeltharian commanders, who struggled to understand concepts like individual initiative and tactical improvisation. Dr. Foster engineering teams worked with alien scientists to develop hybrid technologies that combined superior alien materials with human innovative design. The result was a new generation of starships that could adapt to any tactical situation. The former territories became free, independent worlds that adopted human-style governments based on individual creativity rather than rigid hierarchy. The galaxy experienced peace for the first time in centuries as species learned to compete through innovation rather than conquest. General Parker retired from active military service but continued developing tactical theory. Her final report to Earth government summarized the lessons learned during the war: intelligence, adaptation, and creative thinking will always defeat rigid doctrine based on technological superiority. Morrison accepted command of the first interspecies exploration fleet. His mission was to contact civilizations beyond former Zeltharian space and establish relationships based on mutual respect rather than conquest. The human approach to diplomacy proved as revolutionary as human warfare. The galaxy had learned that being called primitive was not an insult when primitiveness meant retaining the ability to think like warriors rather than technicians. Humanity had saved not just Earth, but the entire galactic community by proving that evolution of mind mattered more than evolution of weapons. Years later, when alien historians studied the war, they focused on a single moment when human creativity overcame alien technology, the moment when Captain Jake Morrison chose to run from Jupiter rather than die. Fighting that tactical retreat had saved civilization itself by preserving the knowledge that would eventually defeat the greatest military force in galactic history.